Hi everyone, my name's Karma Hickman and I'm a solicitor in the immigration team at Bindmans. Welcome to the latest edition of Immigration Unpacked. Today I'm joined by my colleague Armin Houshmand, a paralegal in our team, and we're taking a quick look at some of the changes announced this month, most notably the so-called visa break. So this was one of multiple changes unveiled by the government this month, some larger, some smaller. And I talked about the refugee changes last episode with Vincent, while some other colleagues will be looking at some of the skilled worker stuff coming into force in the next episode. So in this episode, Armin and I are going to take a brief look at a couple of other developments, in addition to the so-called visa break, which is what we're going to start with. Thanks for joining me for this, Armin. The so-called visa break has received quite a lot of press coverage. Can you tell me what the visa break is and who's affected by it?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Karma. So the visa break is the Home Office have announced that they will no longer be considering applications for student visas from nationals of Afghanistan,
Mhm.
Cameroon, Myanmar, and Sudan, and then on those for skilled worker visas from Afghanistan.
So basically, anyone applying from those nationalities applying for a student visa from those four countries or a skilled worker visa from Afghanistan, just they're not going to accept the visa. It'll just be refused if they make an application.
Yes, exactly.
And when's that? Is that now? Is that taking effect? Oh, I should add, we're recording this on the 17th of March. So it might not be published until for a couple of weeks, I think, is our lag on this or thereabouts. So when will this take effect from?
So these are for applications post 25th of March 2026. So to be precise, it's going to be the 26th of March at 12:01 a.m.
So if you make a new application after midnight on the 25th of March from those countries in those categories, students or skilled worker, the application will just be refused. And then presumably that means that anyone who already has an application in the system isn't affected.
Yes, exactly. So anyone who has already applied,
Yeah.
um, and anyone who does apply before that date and time is not going to be affected by those changes.
Okay. And what about people already in the UK who are already on those visas? Are they going to be affected like when they come to renew their visa?
No, so they're not going to be affected. So it's not going to affect nationals who are currently in the UK on student and graduate visas, who will then need to apply for a skilled worker visa for permission to remain in the UK. Those applications are still going to be considered. And there's no restriction for individuals from those nationalities that we quoted who are already in the UK to apply to extend those visas.
Okay, that makes sense. So just new applications after the 25th for people who are outside the country, not new applications for people who are inside the country. And what about people who are, if like they are those nationalities, so Afghanistan, Cameroon, Myanmar, and Sudan, what about if they're living in another country? So what about if they're Cameroonian, for example, but they live in Nigeria and apply from there? Is that okay?
So no, so the break is going to apply to nationals of these countries, regardless of where they apply from, where they.
Okay, and what about people who have two nationalities? Like if I am have American citizenship and Afghan citizenship, what about that?
So as long as you put your American nationality first, or any
Yeah,
other nationality that you have first,
yeah.
then it's not going to be refused.
Okay, so that's for the main applicants. What about if I'm an American citizen and I'm married to someone from one of those countries? Like if I had if I'm applying as a skilled worker, but my husband and children are from Afghanistan, will I still be okay to come?
So it's only the changes are only going to affect main applicants.
Okay. And look, these are quite radical changes, and it's quite unusual. I think it's safe to say, at least in UK immigration history, to just exclude en masse people from a certain visa route. This is really not, I mean, not common. So, what do you think's behind these changes, Armin? Do you have any thoughts about why the government might be doing this?
So the Home Secretary's pitched this as a change to try and stop abuse of the asylum system in the country. And that's because they claim that the people from these four countries that have been listed are going to be the most likely to make an application for asylum before their student leave expires.
These are the ones most in need who, if they happen to be here and claim asylum, the government doesn't want them claiming asylum, basically.
Well, it's the people that they think are most likely to make an asylum claim, which they think is potentially an abuse of the asylum system. Now, so the thing is when you make an application for a student visa, you have to prove that you are a genuine student, and then the Home Office is going to review that application, and whoever makes the decision is going to determine that that person is a genuine student. So
Right.
if someone has been issued a student visa and
Yeah.
is from one of those nationalities, then the Home Office have determined themselves that that person is a genuine student. Now,
Right.
what happens is that sometimes an individual might come to the UK, and in the course of their studies, the situation in their countries changes.
Yeah.
For example, we've seen the outbreak of civil war in Sudan,
Hmm.
and that might lead to conditions in their home countries being unsuitable for their returns,
Yeah.
such that they're going to be at risk of harm and persecution. And at that point, some individuals have no choice but to make an application for asylum. And these changes is not really taking that into consideration. So someone can still be a genuine student, but owing to circumstances outside of their control in their home country, they have
Yeah.
to make an application for asylum.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that basically people, I mean, might well come in as genuine students and then the situation at home changes, and they're left with no choice. I suppose another point is that, the government's always going on about safe and legal routes for asylum, but frankly, there aren't really any for most people. There's like a teeny weeny 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 number that can come through resettlement programs, but there's no way to claim asylum in the UK from outside the UK. So people who are, need to claim asylum, their only choice really is to come in some way and then claim once they're here. And so some, of course, will be genuine students if the situation changes, or they might be genuine students and they get to the end and they're like, okay, well, yeah, but it's dangerous for me to go back anyway. And of course, there will be a number that come in with potentially the intention of studying, but also claiming asylum. And that's just the reality. If you have a system where you won't let people claim asylum from outside the UK, then this is going to happen. So that was the visa break. There's a couple of other topics that I just wanted to run through with you, Armin. One of them is to do with convictions, and one of them is to do with the English language, the level of English language needed for indefinite leave to remain. So start with convictions. So we already saw the introduction of part suitability in November, which really toughened up the grounds for refusing people with any kind of conviction. And the government has now said it's taking a step further. So I think at the moment, we've got like caseworkers have to refuse an application or cancel someone's visa where they've received a custodial sentence, i.e., where they've been told they have to go to prison for at least 12 months for an offence committed inside the UK or outside the UK. It's also mandatory for caseworkers to refuse an application from someone that is categorised as a persistent offender or someone who's committed an offence that caused serious harm. And there's until now the position has been that caseworkers have the discretion. So it's like they may refuse. So they're encouraged to look at situations and then potentially refuse someone where they've been given a prison sentence of less than 12 months, a non-custodial sentence, an out-of-court disposal, or have received a suspended sentence of any period. So what's the situation now? I mean, what's changing?
So what's changing is that people convicted in the UK, as you just mentioned, people receiving a suspended sentence of 12 months or more now face mandatory refusal or cancellation of permission to enter or stay, as opposed to that being a discretionary refusal on the part of the caseworker. And that is also coming into effect as of the 26th of March, 2026. So that same date that we've spoken about with regards to the visa break.
Okay, so this is coming in on the 26th of March 2026, you said, and that basically means that anyone who's ever been given a suspended sentence of 12 months or more at any time, so past or present, will have to be, the caseworker will have to refuse them. And much as with the changes that came in November, it really remains to be seen. I don't know. I'm sure there will be people out there who've had this experience, but as yet, we don't know what this means for people who are already living here, who've already been given a visa based on the old criminality provisions. And when they come to extend their visa, they're facing automatic refusal. So, people will have moved abroad, changed their whole lives on the basis of one set of rules, and we'll be dealing with the new set of rules, which is, I think, kind of, well, we're just part of the course at the moment. The government just seems to be upending everything. Now, the other change that we're just going to look quickly at is the change to the English language requirements. Can you tell me what that change is about, Armin?
Yes, so for a number of different visa routes, the
Yeah.
English language requirement is being hired from B1 to B2.
Okay.
Now, this is taken from the Common European Framework of Reference, and essentially B1 means intermediate and B2 means upper intermediate.
Okay,
So
so it's going to be a more challenging level of English for certain groups.
yeah, so broadly speaking, it's about understanding slightly more complex text with regards to B2, complex and abstract topics,
Okay.
technical discussions in a field of specialization. So a slightly higher level of English is required at B2.
Um, I think the government's like branded this as, oh, they'll have to meet A-level English. But to be honest, I mean, maybe I'm being naive. Like people that I've seen who pass the B1, by the time they get to that point, because I should add, I think what we didn't say is that this increase will only affect applications for indefinite leave to remain. So some categories of visa, you have to show B2 already as of January at like the skilled worker, for example. New applications made since January have to already show the B2 level. But the big sweeping changes where it's affecting lots of categories will only be at the indefinite leave stage. So that is to say that people, by the time they need to meet that B2 level, they'll presumably have already been living in the UK for several years. So it's maybe not as shocking as it sounds. And when does this take effect, I mean?
This is the 26th of March, 2027.
Yeah, so like over a year. So people have got lots of time to adapt. And broadly, I mean, I think it's pretty much everyone. So we've got work visas, I think. So that's like appendix skilled worker, representative of an overseas business. We've got UK ancestry. We've got business visas like global talent, innovative founder. We've also got the human rights routes. So private life, if you're here as the family member of a British citizen. Oh, interesting. There was one last thing, like we don't want to get anyone's hopes up, but one thing you pointed out to me, Armin, was that these changes are stated to affect appendix long residence. And appendix long residence, well, you tell me, what's appendix long residence?
So appendix long residence is a different route to settlement. So someone who can show that they have been living in the UK legally for 10 years on different routes without long gaps, which don't violate the rules,
Yeah.
can apply for settlement.
And that's like people call it the 10-year route generally to settlement, and it's a really, really, really popular route. And there's been a lot of panic or stress, understandably, that the government has more or less said it's said that the result of the proposed changes to settlement and generally the earned settlement means that the long residence route will be done away with. But you notice that that it's stated that these changes to the from B1 to B2 have been said that they will also affect appendix long residence, but of course they don't even come into effect, these changes, for another year. So we don't really know what it means, but it's possible that maybe it might mean something.
Yeah, whether that's some kind of indication that appendix non-residence is going to remain as a route to settlement, we don't know, but it has been mentioned in the changes from B1 to B2.
Yeah. So it's possible. It's like a very small maybe, but we're not trying to give anyone false hope here. We just noticed it and thought it was a bit odd.
Yeah, interesting, but
Yeah,
certainly don't want to get
interesting.
anyone's hopes up
No,
from that.
definitely don't get anyone's hopes up because the government has said it's going to abolish it, but it's weird they put it in there. Okay, I think that's the main things we thought we'd cover today, Armin, isn't it? There's nothing else really. Think we've missed anything out? Anything else you wanted to mention or talk about?
I think that's everything to broadly speaking. There's quite a few different categories
Yeah,
of change to the rules, which were announced quite quickly and coming into effect quite quickly after the announcements. And I
yeah, we
think
think
that
it's
covers
time to
most
move
of it.
on. Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, thanks for joining me. And colleagues of mine will be back in a couple of weeks' time looking at some skilled worker changes. And I'll probably be back for the episode after that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.